Where are you? Oh yeah, that sounds like our office. Okay, I'll come and get you right now. Okay, bye. It's so funny. Okay, you can move.
You're gonna probably catch me just getting water all over this place because wait.
Trying to find that sweet one.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Kathy with a K, radio broadcaster in Honolulu, Hawaii. POV is a talk story series, Radio Music Hawaii, and I am with. I don't know. Should I say your?
You can. Yeah, go ahead. Go. It's all out there. You can.
I know him as Byron Furukawa. I know Byron from back in the day, the very first radio station I worked at, and he worked at, or interned at.
Well, interned first, and then eventually got hired.
Yeah. It was Radio Free Hawaii in Waipahu in the 1990s. He's really aged so well. Punk.
No.
You may know him as Byron the Fur, BTF. Mm-hmm. You know, there was a period where everyone was acronyming things. I think it was the 2000s.
You've been asking me about this since I came in, and
he brought in a manila envelope.
And, well, the origin of my name was from an intern list that I believe Ken,
the Bone Machine.
Yeah. That he had created, and he accidentally left off most of my last name. He only put Fur.
So when I finally met Byron, it was just Furukawa. And I was like, well, that's still interesting. But, you know, I kind of like Byron Fur. But there's more than that.
Yes, and you were working at Jellies at the time.
Yeah.
And then you had told me about
the comic book, yeah. Did you get the comic book? Oh, my gosh. No, you didn't.
This is the one that you bought me.
Oh, my God, that's hilarious. This is, like, explicit. I can't...
and I don't think the cover... Oh, yeah, maybe the cover is... I haven't read it, but every so often when I clean my place and I just...
Have you brought this along with you?
I brought it along just because I want to see your expression
that's so funny.
I brought this.
When I saw Fur, it reminded me of a comic book that was The Yummy Fur. I'm going to call you Byron the Yummy Fur. Yeah, it's just kind of scandalous comic book.
We don't have to go into detail.
Yeah,
Google it.
Super inappropriate in 2019. It is like,
super inappropriate in 1990.
Yeah, it's true. No, but why did you go on here?
I don't know. I'm all like, okay, that's it. Because I thought, the first thing that came to my mind was naturally Lord Byron. And I'm all like, it's too obvious. And even to this day, it's kind of one of my downfalls.
St. Louis. So obvious. Lord Byron.
I just don't want to pick the obvious. So in retrospect, that probably would have led me down a whole different path if I had chosen the name Lord Byron on air instead of Byron the Fur. But even to this day, people still recognize the name. So it's kind of a good thing.
It's kind of a good thing.
It's memorable.
Yeah, it's a different name. Yeah.
It's a different name. And eventually, it's just the history of just shortening it, because originally it was Byron the Yummy Fur. Mm-hmm. Then when we came back on, I just stuck with the name, so it went Byron the Fur, and then BTF.
Do people ever ask you about the origin story of your name?
They do.
Do you give them different things, or do you say
was... No, I just say it was just I go, do you want the short version or the long version, basically? And then I just tell them the story. And they're all like, oh, yeah, I remember... I used to listen to you drunk on the way home from the clubs, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And, it makes me feel good because, just that recognition. Just because I think at Radio Free, it's just because it's the format that we had, and we were allowed to be a little bit more flexible with our playlists.
Oh, yeah.
So, there was a lot of free time when you could play something that you just felt like playing. I'm assuming you did that on your show.
I think I was pretty good about sticking with the clock, but the way I remember it, other people will remember it. This is why POV, point of view, the way you remember it. So this is like anything you're sharing is like, I tend to remind people it's like dates and names and places are going to shift because it could be last week or 30 years ago, when something happened. But I remember that I would play it the way a radio station actually does it, where if something's like super new and sandwich it between something that's super familiar and back selling and front selling. So I was already doing the way that...
Your own personality. We all did, and I think that's why we all bonded, because we all, I mean, there was a common thread, but we were all still our own individual selves and different.
So let's get the backstory on you. You are originally from?
Born and raised in Honolulu, grew up in Kaimuki, St. Patrick, St. Louis, and then went to KCC, worked odd jobs, and then to Radio Free. I was just in the liberal arts program, and then I was planning to transfer up to UH for their communications program. I figured I was going to end up being something like a teacher.
Oh, I could totally see you as a teacher.
So I thought that's just where I would end up naturally. My family wanted me to get in the airline industry, and then radio happened. Once I walked into the Radio Free studios, that just blew my mind away, and just kind of opened up a whole new path and decision for me.
What were you listening to on the radio pre-Radio Free?
Pre-Radio Free?
Yeah.
Growing up, my mother would wake my brothers and I up early, and she would drive us to my grandmother's, so we would be listening to whatever she had on in the car. Back then, she was listening to 94.7, and it was basically a music station back then. And then when my dad would drive us around, he had his favorites.
Okay.
He listened to a lot of local artists, like Melvin Lee, Crystal Gale.
Oh, so country music.
Country music.
Yeah.
But his favorite was always the Carpenters. To this day,
Yeah,
it's
the
not
Carpenters.
Christmas until I hear the Carpenters' Christmas album. I have to
Her
hear something.
voice is just like silk, and Karen and Richard Carpenter, right?
Yes.
Brother and sister duo.
Brother and
And
sister
she
duo.
played drums. Come on.
Yeah.
That's
And
amazing.
so they did everything. And so on a trip to Japan, a family trip to Japan, my brother bought import Men at Work cassette tapes in Japan. And it was the Cargo album and the Business as Usual albums.
Okay. Don't even know that you have siblings.
Yes,
I'm like,
I
how?
have two older brothers. We're
so
all 4 years apart, so this was the oldest brother.
Oh, wow.
And so we came back to America, and he listed it, and being the younger brother, I just kind of just took him, and they kind of inherited them.
Yeah.
And I just listened to them pretty much until they broke, and I memorized almost like word for word. I would like study the lyrics, and even to this day, Colin Hay. But as I got a little older, I saw the records that he had. So he was a big Styx fan, and Queen was at the theater. Why is it just?
You can see it.
Yes, and I know everybody's yelling at me right now through the screen. So
Was it Styx or was it Dennis DeYoung? Was it
No,
the
it was
vocals?
Styx. It was Styx. And then there was the Kilroy Was Here album.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
so I got introduced to rock through him. My middle brother, who's 4 years older than me, after he graduated from high school, he moved to Maui. And then, I don't know what it is with Maui, but they love country music up there. He was into reggae and country, so stole his music. And then as I got older, because 80s was my time, so I discovered like New Order, Depeche Mode, Dead or Alive. The flip side, I would hear UTFO, listen to some of the dance stuff too. Tried to take in as much music as I could. I thought I knew a lot about music until I walked into Radio Free, and I was like,
Where were you when you heard about it?
I was working for my aunt. She had a CPA firm doing tax stuff and going to the state building, and I was listening to Radio Free, and I think Lips was on the air saying, "Oh, we're looking for interns." Blah 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 blah. So I'm like,
See, radio's effective.
the power of radio advertising. Advertising.
That's all I needed. Okay.
And we're done. So I remembered that, and I'm all like, "Oh, okay." So as soon as I got back to the office, I called, and they're all like, "Oh, yeah, just come in this day at this time." And I thought it was a little weird because it was the evening. So I came in and I started interning with Pinky
Oh,
Passion.
Pinky.
Yes. She was my first DJ, and that was my first foray into radio.
That's really good because she had a background in, I think she was at KLOS.
Few people at Radio Free did. I mean, it was all brand new to me. I was 18, I believe, 17 or 18 at the time. So not only is radio new, it's world is new.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was just a kid.
So you were interning with Pinky.
With Pinky, and then you.
It was only you and Capricorn Flowers were the only two.
Yeah,
And even that was
and-
like super like, I just was hating it because I don't like having people like watch me do nothing. It's just like play a record. Did you have something to eat before you came?
I eat at work all the time. Like, there's always food.
Where do you work?
I work over at Hawaii News now. I work on the Sunrise Show. I do production work. I remember my official title is content specialist.
Is that a 2000 to 2010 term?
Yeah. I guess media, I mean, I don't know how it is in radio, but they want people to be able to multitask and do more. I love working there. I love the people I work with. In any corporation, they're going to want their employees to not just focus on one thing. They're going to want to be able to get the most bang out of their buck. That's the way I've always worked in general.
Hawaii News Now is it KGMB and KHNL and K5?
Yes. I started over at KGMB in 2006 after the Wave closed. I was referred to KGMB by Space Cowboy, Daniel Arakaki. Daniel Arakaki used to work for KHNL, and we had some kind of cross-promotion, I believe, Radio Free and KHNL at the time. Daniel was a photographer, and he would come and he would sit in with the Radio Free staff and got to know us, but he was also a DJ. And he DJ'd, you know, all across the scene. He played for Daniel J, G-Spot, but his main job was over at the TV station. He just said, oh, I know the Wave's closing and you're looking for a job. Granted, it's not full-time, but that was my first TV job. And I learned about TV, but my radio experience, the technical experience I picked up at Radio Free kind of helped me. Then a year later, the morning show launched, Sunrise. I guess initially that's what I was hired for, but I don't think that was expressed to me. So when they wanted me to go to the morning show, I still get crap from everybody.
Why?
Because I didn't want to go to the morning show because I was I'm a night owl, just by nature. You know, at Radio Free I was the overnight guy. After Radio Free I worked in nightclubs. I was a club DJ, and night was just my thing. When I was at the TV station, when I first got hired, I could do a normal shift, which was 2:30 in the afternoon till 10:30, and I could still go out and work. The fact that now moving to the morning show, I couldn't do that.
For you in particular, your responsibilities. What time do you need to arrive?
I start at 3:00 in the morning.
That hurts my feelings.
Yes, there is a staggered shift. There are actually some producers that come in at 12 at midnight.
Golly.
And some that come in at 1, some come in at 2. Most of the talent comes in between 2:30 and 3:30. And then we stay till 11 or 12 because it's constant from the moment that we get in till when we leave. There's not even time for a lunch break. Like we're all eating during
at
the
your
show
desk,
at
literally,
the desk. Yeah. And that's why a lot of guests bring in food. So if you're ever coming to Sunrise, you know.
Was it a residency at Waikiki or?
Yeah, it was a residency at the Wave, but that
and Hula's also, right?
Yes, Jack. When you work for Jack, you split your time between the two clubs.
Jack Law.
Jack Law. By the time I had gotten hired to the Wave, Hula's had already moved from
Kuhio.
Yeah, from Kuhio to where they are now. So, but there was a whole process of leading up to the Wave.
Where were you before that? Okay, wait, I guess how did the DJ thing?
So I was overnight at Radio Free, and I was playing the Smiths, How Soon Is Now, and Soho Hippie Chick. I was going from a cart to a CD, and the CD players that we had pitch control. I did some mix between the cart and the CD player, and then Daniel J called me up and complimented me. And he's all like, that was a really good mix, kid. And I'm all like, oh, cool, thanks. And there are certain phrases, just random phrases throughout life. Whenever somebody says something, it just kind of sticks to you. And that was one of those things. And from there, I just said, oh, you know, I love music. I love making people happy. Maybe I can just try to pursue this. So I just kind of started playing around. When my time off, I went into the production studio and just kind of messed around in there. Eventually just started going to promotions and just kind of hanging around the DJ booth. And then I just kind of started messing around and eventually bought my own turntables and then got out there. I went backwards. I started DJing with CDs. And this was before like real deck CD players. Like I had a Denon deck. It was a dual CD player with pitch control. So I used those. My first turntables were a pair of Techniques, and I had gotten a Radio Shack mixer. I think I had just found in some one ads or something. And I just started practicing from there, and I would just do little one-off gigs here and there. I'm trying to remember where the first residency I had was. I believe it was probably Moose's.
There was Moose's University, and there was a Moose's in Waikiki.
And I was working at the Waikiki one.
Oh,
It was a very interesting crowd. I got that job because I was a valet at the time, and my manager was roommates with the head DJ over at Moose's.
Who's do you remember the DJ?
Sean Souza, Sean Tildon. He, I believe, he moved up to California. He's in San Diego now. They brought me in over there, hired me. I was working there 2 days a week. And Flash came in. And I had
Of course he did.
And I had known Flash because I had played over at 1739. Cello.
Do you remember what the playlist, the magazines of CDs and vinyl, or did they have things provided in-house?
In-house, they had their CDs. They had their music collection. But I definitely brought in, the stuff I had that was different that I know that they didn't have. And me being into more the dance side in the house and the techno, and to a certain point, some trance, that wasn't being played out in clubs like Moose's yet, because at that point, which was at Moose's, it was the late 90s. You had your raves, but there was your mainstream hip hop that was kind of making its way up back then, and that was what everybody wanted. So I would have to cater to the crowd because it was a very touristy crowd, a lot of military, and then the format at Moose's was a 3x3. So I was told this is the way that Sean was like, okay, here you can go 3 songs, maybe 4 of a certain genre, but then that's it. You have to get out of it, change it out. I would do as little as 2 to 4 songs and just vary it up as much as possible, which I like. Yeah, you don't want to go to a club and just, at least for me, I want to hear a lot of different things. I don't want to just hear the same things over and over and over again. And I wanted to be exposed to more music. And for me, it was a lot harder to find that, be exposed to music, because at that point Radio Free was off already, and I didn't have this continuous influx of music like I did at the station.
Part of the mailing list at that point?
No, I was just always at the studio and just
cockroaching stuff.
Yeah. Just seeing what was around, but just not necessarily cockroaching or anything, but just being exposed to it and learning about new artists. And I would go out and found an artist at the station. I would go to Jellies and say, let me see what their other stuff is like, and I would buy and just get exposed that way.
So your first residency, Moose's in Waikiki.
I guess 1739.
Oh wait, okay. So Flash walked in.
So Flash walked in at Moose's, and I guess he heard what I was playing, and he asked me if I'd be interested coming over to the Wave. Because I guess at that point he was promotions and marketing director. So he was a full-time employee. And he came in, and at that point, I believe Sean was leaving, Pashan, because he was working at the Wave, I believe. It was him, Keith, and Alex.
KSM and
Racer X.
Racer X.
They needed somebody to help pull up the slack, because having only 2 DJs between 2 clubs over 7 nights, that's not going to fly. So they brought me in, and
what was it like
walking into the Wave? And as an employee, it was exciting, because when I first started DJing, or just going out and discovering the scene, the Wave was, it's legendary. That was the place that I wanted to end up.
What is the time frame? Do you remember the year that you were brought on?
In the year 2000. In the year 2000.
That's a Conan O'Brien, Andy Richter reference.
Young kids.
Kids.
And I worked there for 6 years. First, I think I was what we called babysitting, because would be Tuesday nights, which was Pussycat Lounge. But that's when you would have all the outside DJs come in, and you just needed a resident DJ. Basically, you have to tell them it's too loud, turn it down. You don't want them blowing your system. What a lot of people don't know is DJs are deaf. So when we're playing and you're DJing, they have the monitors up at full blast, about 5 feet away from their ear. So they're constantly just pushing, the limits on the mixer and
The
just
meters,
and they're just redlining it the whole time. We have to say no. Push this down.
How long did it take you to follow the house rules of Wave Waikiki, not be breaking the needle?
Well, at the Wave, it wasn't too bad because I was used to doing that over at Moose's. I think I've always tended to listen to music loud, so I've kind of trained myself to always watch my levels. In some weird way of thinking, I'm thinking, like, okay, we're going to save money, and hopefully that money will trickle down to me.
Optimistic.
Yes.
Polite and optimistic.
Kids listen to this. Not everybody has it figured out. Sometimes it just comes to you as you get older. And I think just recently things have kind of been coming together, and I'm a little more focused than I have been in the past.
So even as a kid, you didn't have any designs of, I want to be an architect or I want to be a deep sea diver?
Growing up in a somewhat conservative family, my family has always questioned a lot of my career choices.
Me too.
You proved them wrong, though.
No, they still worry about me.
Oh, yeah.
As they should.
But originally, before the whole radio thing, I wanted to be a professional skateboarder. That's what I was doing up until I was 20. I was just eat, breathe, sleep, skating. The people I looked up to was, the Bones Brigade, like Steve Capillaro, Tony Hawk. When I first started skating, Tony Hawk was a kid, he was 18, but everybody knew he was the man. And then as I got older, there was for me, the new generation, which is old school to the kids nowadays, Danny Way, Christian Hosoi, Johnny Kopp, I'll say Mark Wachowski, Gator. Those were the skaters that I grew up with, idolizing and looking at. But of course, trying to become a professional skater is not the easiest thing. And as much as I love to skate, I'm not the most athletic person. As a tall, lanky kid, it worked to my advantage as a skater. And, I was decent, but honestly, there was no future in that for me. So school and eventually into radio. And
having something to aspire and chase lends to this is why I work, so I can enjoy these other things.
Yeah, and for me, it was, I'm kind of all over the place. Being a Sag, I like taking a lot, and I've just figured it out recently. So there's no timetable when you're going to figure out your dreams, and your dreams, can change. You can have multiple dreams. Recently, I would say probably in the last 5 years or so, my passion is the creative process of being an artist. I like putting things together. I think that's why I enjoy DJing. I love cooking. And I don't stick to a recipe. The way I cook, basically the way I do anything is I consolidate a whole bunch of ideas and kind of find a common thread and put it together. Even now, one of my favorite things to do now is cosplaying.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Because in the same envelope he brought in.
Speaking of the fur.
Furries, look it up, kids. Don't look it up. Several Halloweens ago, I saw you in an Ant-Man costume, and I was wearing my junior prom dress that I had to throw out. There was one last year where you were an anime character.
Yes, Totoro.
It was huge. It was like 7 feet tall or something?
About 6.5, 7 feet tall. That one I made about 2 or 3 years ago, I believe. Last year I did an Iron Man suit, and now I have a couple of costumes in progress. I'm almost done with one, which is a Wonder Woman armor. Not for me.
Okay. I was just like, you go, Byron. I'm sure your girlfriend appreciates that.
But I have a Gambit, which is an X-Men character that I'll be working on.
Is it whatever's around the house, or do you like get specs and do measurements? I mean, it's like very serious interlocking pieces.
No, I do the patterning, and or I find the patterns that I need to do, or I do my research on how to build it. If I can get materials cheap, I will. But if I have to buy some, then I won't. But the whole idea behind cosplaying is, yeah, you can spend money to build your costume, but if you can, it's try to expand your mind and what idea can you come up with on the cheap to make the best looking costume? Because complex costumes are great, but if you can be inventive and use things and upcycle things, especially nowadays in the whole recycle reuse environment, it's like people just don't know their boundaries, and it's not like
boundaries. What?
So you use this bottom part, you cut it,
Yeah.
and you use that as like a peppermill
Placeholder.
or cover. Like you cover the bottom, you just put it in there.
Okay.
Because I don't, the little pepper grinds always
Yeah.
come out,
Yeah.
so it catches it.
I'm not really a condiment kind of gal, so I guess that
When you cook, Google me and / life hacks, and it'll pop up.
Do you still DJ?
I'm available. I still have the technical skills, but just with the current state of music, I'm so out of the loop. Like, I don't know half the artists. I still very rarely listen to the radio. I have an old iPod that I kind of just keep refreshing with the music I have on my computer and stuff that I get through some label sources. Most pop music, like if I went out into a club, I probably wouldn't be able to keep a floor because with anything current. Cause I don't know
pop
the
music. Okay, so
I know Ariana Grande, but I couldn't name a song of hers.
you probably have heard her because
Oh yeah, I mean I've heard her, but like I wouldn't be able to know the name of the song, or if you played like three songs and said which one is Ariana, I was like, I don't know. Mainly because of me, because the old car that I just sold, the radio, the stereo that was in there, which was installed by the previous owner, when they installed it,
which CD is stuck in there?
no, it wasn't a CD. They bought a unit and then they cut the antenna, so it was a power antenna. And even though this unit has an antenna to receive stations, it's not very strong. So I couldn't catch I could catch KSSK if I was lucky.
Well, yeah, AM is like a champ.
Yeah.
You don't need an antenna for AM.
Yeah.
But if you want stereo,
Or even any of the FM stations,
Yeah.
like I would be lucky if I could catch anything. So I just gave up on radio for, let's see, I had that car for about 8 years. So I was just constantly either on Pandora. Yes, I'm still on Pandora.
get onto the iHeartRadio app or Spotify.
See, everybody says Spotify, but I was just like, I invested so much time in just creating that list on Pandora. I'm just like, or my iPod. I mean, like I said, I just constantly refresh my iPod, and even to this day, I'm still finding stuff on my iPod. Like my iPod will play a song. I'm like, what is this? That, I've probably had for 20 years. That was just kind of buried in my music collection of MP3s and CDs. I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. So I'm still discovering new music.
What about podcasts? Are you into that?
No,
at all?
I never got into podcasts. My friend linked me to Gilbert Gottfried's podcast, which is very interesting. I don't have an hour that I can just spend as much as I would like to just listening as much as I would.
Well, the thing about podcasts is just you do other things
While you're doing it,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like listening to music.
I think that's just my procrastination and just kind of...
You're just an old man. That's what you are. Get off my lawn, kids. Technology. What are you talking about? Oh, my day, I used a fader and... Gosh, darn it.
We were sending smoke signals.
You had fire? What? Advances in technology. Are you Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Priming?
No, I don't do...
Do you have a TV?
I do have a TV. When I'm at home, I do channel surf a lot. Media addict. Watch a lot of superhero shows.
Okay.
Like on stuff on the CW. I watch Arrow, Flash, Legends Tomorrow.
Gotham.
Gotham. I watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Are you DC or Marvel?
Marvel.
You're really fighting the normalcy of how other people are doing it. You're just like, nope. No.
Thank God for reruns. See, and that's how
Yeah.
I catch up on, like.
Breaking Bad, did you ever
Oh
watch?
yeah, oh yeah. Watch Breaking Bad.
But you didn't watch it the first time out.
I did. I watched it. I
Oh, if
couldn't
it's
wait.
comic book expired. So you like
I couldn't wait every week.
Walking Dead? Are you into
Walking Dead, because I love zombie movies. I love zombie movies. I watched the first couple seasons of Walking Dead, and then I kind of just fell off, and that was just my fault, just because there was just too much TV going on.
that? There's too much good TV.
Too much good TV. And as you know, all my entire life, I was always into TV as well. I'm a TV addict. I average about 8 to 9 hours of TV a day on top of school. And that's just what I do now. And it's like I watch a lot of TV. And when I'm at home, like you said, it's like have a podcast on. When I'm at home, I'm actually doing about 6 different things. It's not uncommon for me to have a computer, my iPad, a couple of my iPads, my phone, and the TV going on while I'm doing something else. Like if I'm making a costume and I'm gonna have all this other stuff on. I guess I could fit a podcast in there.
I don't see why not.
Been watching a lot of Mom.
That's fun.
It's kind of a
Yeah.
good show. I caught up on 2.5 Men that way. Yeah.
What about The Good Place?
The Good Place I have not.
That's so good.
Really, I want to. That one sounded interesting. I wanted to also watch God Friended Me. That sounded interesting.
Did you watch BSG? Battlestar Galactica?
Oh no, really? Everybody said that was good. I would give it a shot. I'm going to use my girlfriend's password, and we just did a story today on how Netflix is cracking down on that. They know you're using somebody else's password.
Battlestar. Yeah, I'm like BSG. You should know what that is. You cosplay. I don't think I've ever dressed up outside of Halloween.
You know, not if I watch and get into it, I can probably imagine myself making a costume from that show.
When you watch it, it's going to be like, it might take some adjusting because you're going to draw up on who played what character and what they. Yeah. But when you watch it, it's going to be like, oh shit. All seasons of Battlestar, which aired between 2004 and 2009. It's streaming Amazon Prime. It's
Amazon
Prime.
Oh, okay. She has Amazon Prime too.
Well, this is Amazon Prime UK.
Oh, I can find it.
Oh, you know what? When you were working at Radio Free, it was Byron the Fur and Tiff, like Teflon.
Like Teflon, Tef the Gelfling.
How did the two of you get paired up? Did you guys go to school together? Or you guys?
No, her friend, who I knew as I believe was Spam, used to call on. They used to be just listeners and calling, and then they came in to intern. I forget how, and that's where I met them. And her friend Tef was just the name that she had gotten from her friends because nothing sticks.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
Like she would always say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I just called her the Gelfling because she hated that word, Gelf from the Dark Crystal, and she was all like, God, it just freaks me out. It's like, that's it then. You showed me the button, I'm gonna push it. So I'm all like, Tef the Gelfling. Facebook friends.
Aww.
I believe she's married in Canada.
Was she your intern?
She was my intern.
Aww.
Which helped because there were some nights overnight, you know, where you're just tired and you're like, you know what to do. Just go push those buttons and play the songs. And she was great. She was awesome. But yeah, I haven't seen her since we went off the air. You said Facebook friends. I'm particular on Facebook. It's like I usually only keep people that I know in real life.
It's like you don't have to explain yourself.
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
Did I ask you to add me or something? It's like
No.
on the record, you know, Kathy, I'm just going to let you know that.
No, it's just like people, like they hear Facebook friends are all like, oh, you know, just that's not a real friend. And you're just like, no, but for me, Facebook is different. Like it is something personal that I can go to and just use it as for what it was meant for, originally meant for. People that know each other can stay in touch.
I like that. That's how technology is, and like the different an app, whatever the intention, the original intention, it can morph into something better. But then sometimes when it's used for not such stellar things,
it can, and that's the pitfalls of it. It can go either way. It can be with great power comes great responsibility. Use your power for good, kids.
Everyone, go to his Facebook page, and that would be great.
Request. I'm horrible with keeping in touch with people, but if I have just something that's going to curate and kind of take care of it for me, it makes it so much easier. Like, I'm horrible with emails.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes it'll take me a day or two to get back to you. So I'm like, the best way to get in touch with me is just text me. Don't email me, because sometimes I don't check my email for a day or two, or it's like I'll read it, but I don't have time to respond, and then it'll just slip my mind, and I'll forget to respond to it until I check my email the next day. I'm like, ooh, you needed to answer yesterday. My bad.
Get off my lawn!
Until you get people who have like 3 different pages. You're like, okay, which is your personal page? Which is the one that you
Don't
want?
judge me, and bring him food.
It's not about you.
Okay, we're good? I think we're good.
No, I'm good. Are you good?
I think for now.
For now.
For now. For now. For now.